Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time seeing my face, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. So I put out content every new week. You might need to consider subscribing if you have not done that yet. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you how I made this lovely Bubu dress. See, it's so cute and it has pockets, guys. So I'll be sharing with you the step-by-step process. So I just need to use this opportunity to say thank you to my new subscribers. Thank you so much for liking my posts, for commenting, for sharing them. I really appreciate it. You're the main reason I get motivated to create new videos. So if this looks like what you're interested in, keep watching. So guys, I'll be cutting out the front and the back piece of this dress together using the full length of this fabric. So please, if you do not know how I folded this fabric, I have a detailed video where I showed that. I'll be linking it in the description box. So now I'm just marking my shoulder measurement divided by 2. So I'll just mark it at that point. Then I'll decide how long I want my sleeves to be, taking note of the fact that I'll be adding another fabric which would be about 2 inches long, which would make the full length of my sleeves. So I'm going to be working with 11 inches for the length. Then I'll be marking 12 inches on the vertical part of this fabric, so that's going to serve as the circumference of my sleeves. So you can make yours bigger if you want, it depends on your preference. So the next thing I'm marking is my waist measurement. That is optional. I'm using 16 inches, which is my shoulder to waist. I'm also marking my shoulder to hip point. So if you do not know how to take these measurements, I would be linking the video on this channel in the description box. So the next thing I need to do is to impute my round measurements. So the first one I have here is my waist measurements divided by 4. I'll just be marking that there. So it depends on how big you want this dress to be. In my own case, I added 4 inches to this dress, to my measurement. So taking note of the fact that when you're closing this dress, you would need an allowance to sew. So if you want yours bigger, you could make yours 5 inches or 6 inches. So I'll also mark on my hip line, my shoulder to hip line, my round hip measurement divided by 4. I'm so sorry, my marker, my chalk could not show properly on this fabric because the fabric is really colorful. So I'm so sorry. I'll take note of that next time. So whatever I got on that, whatever I had on the hip line, I'll just mark that at the bottom part. So right now I'll just mark my neck measurements. I'll be using 3 inches wide. Then for the depth, I'll be using 1 inch and 3 inches. You know, I told you I'm cutting the front and the back piece together. So the 1 inch will be for the back, while the 3 inches would be for the front part. So you need to watch closely and see how I am going to cut this out separately. So once I've marked that, I'm just going to take down that measurement on my shoulder line. I'm just going to make sure that that's exactly what I have on the sleeve circumference line, that 12 inches I marked. So I'm just going to connect those lines together, and that will serve as the sleeve. Then I would create a curve at that point where the sleeve joins with the dress, the main body of the dress. So I'm just going to mark all the measurements to the bottom part of the fabric before I cut it out. So I'll just arrange the fabric properly and then cut this out, making sure that there are no sharp edges, like around the hip point, then around the sleeves. So at that point here, you just need to make sure you are curved, your hands are curved, like you curve that point, and avoid sharp edges. So once that is done, it's time to create the front neckline of this dress. So I'll just lift up the front part, that's separate it like this, as you can see me doing, and this part will be the front. So I'll mark 7 inches in the front, like at the front, so that would be making 8 inches plus the 1 inch I cut out earlier to create a V neckline for the center of this dress. Then I'll go ahead and mark 1 inch at the center front. So depending on how big you want your collar to look, you can just make yours maybe 1.5 inches, or maybe, I think 1.5 inches is fair enough. So I would just cut this out, taking note of that point where I created the V neckline. So I'll just cut this out. Just cut this out carefully, taking note of the point there where our collar would sit. So once you've done that, so after doing that, your dress, I'm just going to create a notch, a tiny snip, so that I'll take note of the shoulder. So once you're done, your fabric should look like this. All the front part should be open. So the next thing I'm doing is to take the round measurements of the open parts of this dress. So just take the measurement all the way and cut out a long fabric that can go round. So this is 5 inches long, so that when I cut it, turn it into 2 and take half an inch, I'll be left with 2 inches. So you can use any fabric of your choice to do this. You can use velvet. This is just what I had available, so I decided to use this one. So once you're done turning it over to the front, finishing the neckline, it should look like this. So I'll just give this a nice press so that the dress looks better. So I also cut out another piece with the same dimensions like the first strap. So this would be for the sleeves of this dress. So I measured the sleeves and just cut out a fabric of the same dimensions. So just do this for the both sleeves, for the 2 sleeves, and you can use an interface if you want, so that it is stronger, but I did not use for mine. So the next thing I need to do is to mark my shoulder to where my pockets would start from. So I'm using 18 inches for mine. This is around my waist point, so it depends on what you want. So once I mark that point, I'll just give it a tiny mark there. So I have 4 pieces of my remaining fabric here. Then I'll just place my hands on this fabric and leave enough allowance at the top and the bottom, which will serve as my pockets. So I don't know if there's a standard dimension, but if you know any, you can drop it in the comments. But this is how I cut my pocket. So I'll just cut this out, 4 pieces, and place them, attach them to that point, and then close the dress. So to close this dress, I'm just going to use half of an inch. So it depends on how many inches you left for your dress. So at this point where I have my pockets, I would need to sew it to that point, then go through the pockets. So you really need to take note of this. So you're just going to take your machine, like you're going to sew round like that before taking it down till the bottom part of the dress. Then lastly, I'm just going to take from that point I left for my neck line. I'm just going to join by 1/4 of an inch till the bottom part, leaving about 14 inches for my slits to ease my movement. Then I'll just hem the bottom part of the dress finally, and that is all for the dress, guys. Thank you so much for watching till this point. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you learned anything new.